It is time, dear ladies and gentlemen, once again for the worst 120 minutes in all of sports podcasting. That's right. It is the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. Guess who's back? Back again. Stead is back. Tell a friend. Stead is back. Stead is back. Stead is back. That's right. Our fearless producer has risen from the dead. Go Bio Team.
Yeah, I should pull out some of the ointments and treatments I've been on, man. But I'm all good now. All good now. Some stretching, some sauna. A couple of.
I got one of those inversion tables.
No, I. You know what? G sent me one. I got one coming. I'm gonna wait until after I come back from vacation to get one. But I got this special. My neighbor's like a shaman, so I got this special wrap he gave me, and this little thing that vibrates, and this cold pack. And he was like, just switch it around and do some stretching, and then lay on your back. And Lisa pushed my legs up, and I was like, all right, feeling pretty good.
Lisa pushed her legs up.
Yeah, man, she got on there and pushed them down.
That's some next level stuff.
Well, when you're married to a D1 athlete, you can do a little bit more when it comes to that kind of stuff.
Oh, okay. There again, learning way more than I ever thought that I was going to. And I'm with the rest of the panel when they say no comment. And we
Stretching,
are with
good for you.
We are joined this evening by Byron Robb, Gold Cup champion Robb, who has proven two things. Number one, was in stadium as the U.S. beat Mexico 1-0. And by showing up on time has proven that reading is actually fundamental. Because he demonstrated that he was able to follow directions and show up to the show when it was actually being recorded. G, how goes it this evening?
Well, I'm about to tell a friend that Stead's back. So, hey, friend, Stead is back in town right now. He's producing. So life is good right now. I can't, I'm at the bar. Got a lot of teacher stuff going on. So hopefully you guys see a little picture behind me. That's little Elizabeth as a 5-year-old little J.C. Penney special. And her friend doctored it up and made it to a little Alice in Wonderland, kind of fit the New Orleans theme. So we're slowly kind of getting to our decorating our house a little creepy style.
Yeah, having a good time down there, G.
You are having a good time. And with the Christmas lights and stuff, it looks like you have dedicated a shrine to Elizabeth.
No comment.
Mm-hmm. Chelsea Mike, new background.
Yeah, we'll change it up for this show. We'll probably be back in the yellow office next week. But, I'm just here to hang out tonight. My week's next week. And then, of course, when Stead and I do our own sub-pod of English League.
Yeah, man.
Reviews.
Oh, look at the Too Many Guys Soccer Network growing. Details to be released when we actually figure out when and if we are going to do this. But, gentlemen, good to see you. We will be later joined by Carlos and Celtic Cam. And tonight, we are going to dedicate our time to previewing some of the continental leagues. We'll go through La Liga, Serie A, and the Bundesliga. And in true Too Many Guys Soccer Show style, it wouldn't be right if we didn't preview at least one league after it had actually started. So we'll be joined by Celtic Cam, as I previously mentioned, to go over his predictions for the Scottish Premier League, which actually started this weekend. But yeah, Stead, come on. We've been doing this a number of years. Since when have we ever sought to preview leagues before they start?
Well, especially the Scottish Premiership. We've never been. I mean, the fact that we're only a week or two in, we're doing pretty good.
We still haven't previewed the MLS, and they're halfway through the season.
We said, oh, wait a minute. That's true. We always said that was a July preview, but it's August. So I guess we should get that done.
We should probably get that done when we get the opportunity to get it done, but I don't see that coming really soon. Yeah, here's our MLS preview. It's MLS soccer. They're playing games. There are people involved. Somebody will win.
We've no idea who, and we'll talk about it in September when Matt gives us his awful picks for Sean.
Well, somebody will win. And then somebody will win again, because somebody will win a Supporters Shield and somebody will win the MLS Cup.
Yes. So teams will win. There will be an eventual MLS Cup champion. And I think what we're really going to do this year is we're going to preview the whole entire MLS season the week before the MLS Cup finals. That way we're sure to be right because we'll already know what happened. That's the key to MLS previews, is actually knowing what has happened in advance. But
We still might get it wrong.
yes,
Oh, yeah.
and that's the joy of MLS. But first and foremost, let's start with, it was a tale of two teams this past weekend. And I'm going to be honest, it did not end up the way that I thought it would. If you were going to tell me that one of the men at the end of this, that either one of the men's or the women's team was going to be playing for a championship and win it, and one would go home at the semifinal stage, I would have picked the men to go out and the women to go on and win if you would ask me this in early July. However, it was the men with a series of late 1-0 victories. Everything after the semifinal game, which was won, or the last of the group stage games, which was won by the quickest goal in Gold Cup history, was won by a goal scored after the 85th minute. And they were all 1-0 victories. But Rob, you were there. The U.S. men emerged victorious. Greg Berhalter, I got to give him a lot of credit on this one. I mean, this was a roster with 3 holdovers from the team that beat Mexico earlier this year against 8 guys starting for the Mexican team. They were possessionally dominated, but they played without fear. We have talked a lot since the loss in Trinidad about, those memes about how the U.S. can't find 11 guys that can beat Trinidad. Why can't, in a country of 600 million people, we can't find 11 people who can play soccer? Well, ladies and gentlemen, if this summer is to be believed, and trust me, there's plenty of more games to be played, we may have found the better part of 44 of them who can actually play soccer, because there are 44 different players rotated through these squads over the course of the summer, and they both end up the same way: 2 titles, 1-0 defeats of Mexico, both in extra time. Rob, you were there on Sunday evening. Give us the feedback from the Death Star in Las Vegas.
So first of all, I believe it was the first big event that Allegiant Stadium, the home of the Las Vegas Raiders, have hosted with a bunch of fans in the stand. So it was a little bit chaotic getting in, but once you got in, it was clearly a Mexico crowd, 85-15, maybe a little bit more. But you know what? And just talking to a lot of my fellow USA fans, we were just happy to be here. We knew that this was going to be in a really tough match. And, we, for the most part, the way we played, we really, you could say that we had no business being in the final. But when it comes to USA Mexico, we knew anything can happen. And you could, Mexico obviously had the better number. They had a better possession, the more accurate passes, more shots on goal. The problem is they didn't convert. And slowly but surely, as they stopped, really converting, you saw that it started to get into their heads that something wasn't right. And the Americans started to build into the match, and he started to get more comfortable. And it was a workman style press. The USA press all for most of the match. Josh's artist, ran everywhere. He wasn't really clinical. He had a couple decent first touches, but he pressed hard, and he made the Mexico defenders make decisions. Sometimes the decision didn't want to. It was an amazing atmosphere, amazing match, and obviously, we're just really happy that USA pulled the 2-0 in finals this summer. 2 finals, 2 wins, 2 trophies. Wonderful way to end the summer and on to World Cup qualifying in September.
So, Rob, you are probably the biggest U.S. men's national team fan on this panel. You know, I'm a big supporter. I know you were on your way home from the West Coast, so stopping in Vegas wasn't that big a deal. But
Yeah.
Putting the fandom aside,
Yeah.
what do you make as let's put the analyst hat on for a second. What do you make
Sure.
of this summer for the U.S. men's national team? You know, what do you think this means? Do you think this, okay, we won these 2 titles, we beat Mexico, but we've proven nothing? Is this a stepping stone? Does it announce a legitimate challenge by the U.S. for at least temporary supremacy in CONCACAF? Should we count on World Cup qualification as a sure thing, or just, hey, let's see what shows up in September? We have 10 games or 8 games, half of our qualifiers in between now and the end of 2021.
You know, I think that people have to understand when Greg Berhalter brought in this squad for the Gold Cup, he said his idea was to find depth in the chart because there were so many games going on. In the first 2 windows, there's 3 matches, 3 qualifiers. The first one, I think, is an away, a home, and an away. It's going to be really tough on the players to potentially play all 3 games. So you need to find depth here. And the Gold Cup served as a great test for some of the players that Greg Berhalter was thinking to bring into the World Cup qualifiers. For example, I think Kellen Acosta earned his spot as a backup for Tyler Adams. So because, you know, obviously Tyler Adams has had a couple injury issues. He's going to be flying in from halfway across the world over in Germany. So you're not going to try to make him play the full 90 minutes for 3 qualifiers. You need to find depth. And I think Greg Berhalter really found it here. He found a bunch of different pieces that he knows he can potentially slot in to start in an important game and knows that they can play his system. Another person, Miles Robinson, could potentially play along John Brooks or play for John Brooks, considering that he has had an injury history. Last year, he was really, really lucky, didn't get hurt not all that much. But now he has the confidence to put these players in the position and to play and do well. And so I think he got everything he wanted. He got the 2 trophies, and he got to define his depth chart for the next year or so, especially for this fall coming up. And that's invaluable information. That's all he really wanted. He wants data points, and he got all those data points that he needed. Now he's ready to bring his squad in, knows where to slot who and who he has confidence in. So it's looking up, you know, for Greg Berhalter. And, you know, for Mexico, I don't know. I mean, they've done rash things. For all we know, they could fire Tata Martino in about 24 hours. I mean, I'm surprised. I mean, you could make a case that you're surprised that he's still on a plane going back to Mexico. But, you know, losing to the U.S. in this fashion, you know, if they do make a change, they sort of have to start over and right before qualifying, which I would think would be an awful move. But this is honestly, this is probably the most confidence we've had in the USA squad in a long, long time. And I think everyone's on a high. I think they're ready. I think the first match is in Honduras, if I'm not mistaken. And it's going to be, I think they're going to be really pumped for it. And all the stars are going to come in. Pulisic, McKennie, Adams, everyone's coming. But now we have players to slide in, and we're ready to roll.
So that brings me to the next point. It seems like, you know, normally I would look at the summer and say, going into World Cup qualifiers, I would like him to sort of slim the roster pool down to, you know, 35, 30 players that he's looking out for a 23-man roster. You know, you have enough backups that if we have some injuries, we can sustain them. What it actually seems like he's done is, instead of slimming it down to 30, 35, he's expanded it to about 46. So if you're looking at a combination of who's there and who wasn't, but could be there through injuries and restrictions and stuff like that. The likes of like Tim Weah and stuff who weren't necessarily able to make the trip. It seems like, Greg Berhalter is either in the enviable position or unenviable position of having two full 23-man rosters right now that he could call apart. Rob, you brought up the point that, with the number of fixtures and how close they come together, there's going to have to be heavy squad rotation throughout each window, right? With 3 games per window in September and October, he's going to have to rotate heavily. We can't, almost to the point where he may have an 11 for one game and an 11 for another game, and swap them out like that. What are the chances that we see, and if there is a chance, when do we see it? What Berhalter considers to be his best 11, the 11 that we think would start the first match right now of a potential World Cup match, or the 11 that would start that match that you absolutely know without a doubt that he would win. When do you think, and do you think at any point in qualifying, except in the case of emergency, that we see the best 11 take the pitch together?
I think you'll see the best lineup either against Honduras away, or you'll see them in Mexico in November. I mean, not Mexico, in Cincinnati when they play Mexico in November. Because you're absolutely right. There's going to have to be a lot of squad rotation. Like, for example, a position that normally doesn't get rotated out, or at least substituted out, is the center back position. Usually center backs, especially if you're a high pressing team, center backs don't run too much or don't have to run as much and expend themselves, right? But I think you're going to see John Brooks coming out after a half. You're going to see Miles Robinson, Chris Richards, those folks come out after like potentially one half or maybe 50 minutes. There's going to be a lot of that because you got to rest players, and not to mention also you got to do this. You got to do this like a little bit of a friendship thing with the clubs. You don't want the clubs to like get angry at you either, because you're just making your players play. What are 270 minutes or so in a qualifier window. So it is going to be really tricky, but match day 1 or qualifier 1 with Honduras away in Mexico will be the first big test where I think you'll see the number 1 11 roster that he's thinking of, because you definitely want to get off on the right foot, and also at the same time you need to get 3 points at home, especially against Mexico, because that really, really will help you out.
Guys, and I'll start with Mikey. This team is young. This team has a lot of excitement. They're fun. We know what they're looking for. When you see them drinking out of the cup and they're all surrounding Gianluca Busio, talking about his transfer to Venice. This is a team. They know who we are. They're young. They're hungry. I know G is going to have a comment, so maybe I'll share this one just directly to throw it at him. But they're young. They're entertaining. They're exciting. They're passionate. It's the type of team that, even talent aside, you want to root for. Mike, how are you feeling about this team right now?
It's exciting. For the first time ever in my life, it feels like we're on an upswing. We've got talent on the team that has not been on display this summer, since the Nations League in the Gold Cup. But I mean, the amount of players we have getting quality time in Europe now is the most we've ever seen. There's a lot of guys who look like they can play, in all positions, where for a long time we were pretty much just a goalkeeper factory. It's a great time to be an American soccer fan. And who knows? I think Qatar is going to be weird next year. I'm looking forward to. I first of all, I think we're definitely going to make it. I would be just crestfallen if we didn't.
Mike, I've said that before. I've said that before. I'm not going to go there yet. I've done that before. I've gone on the air and I said, "Oh, we're definitely going to make it. I will eat my hat if we don't make it." I'm gonna tell you, that hat tasted very, 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 very nasty. No matter how much my mother-in-law tried to boil the wild out of it and season it with adobo seasoning, that hat was flipping nasty when I had to eat it after that loss. So I'm excited. I'm happy. I'm not going as far as you are, but I feel you on that. It's a good time.
I mean, I honestly, I wasn't aware adobo was the seasoning that went with hat, but that's
adobo. If you're going to eat a hat, it must be seasoned with adobo seasoning, copious amounts of adobo seasoning. Right, like everybody should have. Rob, I know you know about adobo seasoning.
Sure do. Love the stuff.
You probably have a thing about that big in your cabinet.
I have plenty.
Yeah, adobo seasoning and Old Bay are the only two things that you can put on hat when you eat it. Maybe a little bit of wait, if you want to make it Louisiana, Pat, you can put some Cajun on there too. But yeah, you must season.
Get some of that slap your mama sauce spices on there. That'll zing it right up, man.
But you have to boil it and then marinate it while it's still wet and let the seasoning get into it. And then the best way to eat a hat is grilled. Like I said, I know this from experience. Had to eat one after they lost.
Well, I've got, you know what, I'm going to predict that I'm not going to eat my hat here. I'm going to say America qualifies. And if America does qualify, you know, I think we need to make it out of the group stage. I think that's what success is. But I think that, you know, with the World Cup coming here in 2026, you know, USA is going to be primed up with a bunch of guys in their mid to late 20s who have proven their worth overseas and in other tournaments. And you know, I mean, I think that's the end goal. That's what we really have to be looking for. But I bet eating a hat on it that we're going to qualify. If anyone out there on the internet wants to challenge me to that,
don't do it. Don't do it. The hat is not worth it. Like that's something that you can do. Like, I will drink a crappy American beer if we don't make it to the World Cup. I will drink a 6-pack of Coors Light if we don't make it to the World Cup.
Well, you know, Coors Light, it is the taste of the Rockies. But I love how we show up to the show. I promise.
I love how we show up to the show with appropriate props. By the way,
I know
not playing that.
I wish we planned this. That would be so much better that way.
It's just years and years and years of being here. Pat, I was going to throw this one out to you because it gives you a shot to get that last dig in at the men's national team that you know you need to have. We've transformed from a nation where our best player, Landon Donovan, refused once to go to Europe because he wanted to make sure he was still playing for the for the LA Galaxy when David Beckham arrived, to a team where all the young players are actively talking about and looking for those big moves over to Europe, a chance to prove themselves against the best. What do you make about of this transformation and sort of the attitude of the young players for the U.S. men's national team?
Well, the biggest thing is how can we remain healthy over this next couple of years. Pulisic's been hurt. He gets healthy, then gets hurt again. So the longevity of him is kind of a question mark right now. And like Rob said in the chat, Stefan might not be that number one goalie. Turner had a phenomenal tournament. He really kept the actual team in. Yeah, we're struggling to win 1-0. And I say struggling because if Matt doesn't save one of those goals, the whole game is completely different. It does not keep America in because of their youth. I like when the American boys go overseas, man. That's where the talent needs to be. And so if we have talented, let's go over there. But we've seen that throughout the decades, that they don't really want to come back because of risk of getting hurt. And sometimes they might have a clause in their club team so that they don't want to let them go. Definitely a young team, but if you're going to get all these big boys coming over, when are they going to mesh? All these young studs, I guess you want to call them studs, have meshed over the last couple of tournaments, and here we are. We got some of these guys that haven't been around. How are they going to play well with these kind of newer guys? I'll be nice for now.
I was going to say, leave it to G. Parade G Cloud Rain.
It's kind of hard to be excited against a win against Mexico, who had split squad, who their A team won against Brazil and lost in extra time. So it's kind of hard to say that we have a good young squad because their squad looked awful. I'm sorry, but us five could probably come close to. Okay, we won't have a chance against the Mexico B team, but if we have about 50 of us, but we can make it happen. It just seems like we're kind of right there. We're always seem like we're on the cusp. And like Chelsea Mike said, like it looks like we're on the upswing, but like how many times have we been on the upswing? Shut up, dogs. So it's one of those things that is just like, when is it our time? That always we had this potential. But when I see our squad against, let's say, an Italy team, how well are we going to do against England, some of the bigger boys? Right now, with the squad that we have for the Gold Cup, we won't even compare. We won't even sniff their jock straps because we're just so below them. The hope is always there, but again, Coach G will always say, until you've proven me different, I'm always going to be on the bandwagon of not liking the USA men's team. So,
I think, Stead, I know why G is a big Arsenal fan. He can find the gray cloud in an otherwise sunny sky.
Yes.
I love it.
Yeah, G, you were a couple of years too late to see the true glory years of the Arsenal squad, so I get it.
Well, there's a realist of a soccer, person and knowledge, and we've seen the show before, so I can't get excited on this bandwagon. Like I can't really get excited for Arsenal right now, but it's one of those things that.
All right, Stead, before we turn over and we start talking, we get on the women real quick, and then we get to Los with his because he's joining us with El Gato and his La Liga preview. Real quick, what are your thoughts on the U.S. men's national team and their win this weekend?
I think Rob put it very eloquently that there is a lot to be positive about. I think and looking at 2026 is probably the better way to look at it. But if anything strange is going to happen in a World Cup, it's probably going to be this one. If there's any team that's going to come out of nowhere and do something crazy, it's probably going to be this one. So,
all right, let's not start with the idea of the U.S. winning the World Cup.
I wasn't
just get to the quarterfinals?
What I was saying,
just the quarterfinals.
Be a weird
all I'm asking for is a quarterfinal.
All
we are saying is
all I'm asking for. Hold on a second. I'm going to mute you if you don't let me talk. All I'm saying though is that if there's any year where the things get thrown up in the air, it's probably going to be this year. So that's exciting. But if you look at the field players, there's only been one player over the age of 30 who's received a call up to the national team in the last year, and that's Josie Altidore. And we know he's not going to be going to Qatar. So you have to be excited about the youth and how it's all youth. So hopefully they can actually form some level of a squad. I think what worries me about the point you brought up about Berhalter having now like 40 players to choose from and clearly can have 2 squads is I don't know if I trust U.S. coaching enough to be able to pick the best ones to put it all together. And I think that's a very enviable task because the U.S. doesn't have clear superstars at every position. We have a couple of good players who feature at specific positions, but outside of those 3 or 4 guys, it's easy to potentially get it wrong because they're also kind of cut from the same cloth as far as talent is concerned. But as a U.S. player, as a U.S. supporter, I think it's my duty to be excited about it. I'll put it that way.
All right, I got to say, just they're gonna get another year of development throughout this season. So I think that there'll be rising bubbles and falling bubbles.
Mm-hmm.
I
think it's going to be very challenging though. I think it's going to be very difficult. And I don't, and it's not a knock on the US players or the coaching staff. I just think it's just going to be a very difficult job to do because we don't have a top tier star at every position. We don't have that.
It's not a position that you see a lot of teams in.
Mm-hmm.
So on the flip side of this, real quick, U.S. women's national team went out in the quarterfinals.
They still got a game.
Yeah. They still got a game, but their bid to become the first women's team to hold both a World Cup title and a gold medal fell flat in the quarterfinals, which was a game further than they got with it last time. It just didn't seem to come together for them this tournament. At no point, I think, the analysis of this one can be pretty simple insofar as I just don't feel like it ever came together for them.
Agree.
From the time they got over to Japan and they played that first game, that chemistry, that feeling, they had a number of pre-tournament games to get it together. It just, for some reason, it just never kind of clicked for them. And I don't think that's an indictment on Vlatko, who probably may not survive this one.
Agree, because they had the same team more or less for the last couple of years, and you've seen the success. It's got to be the coaching staff. It just, he doesn't look like he's the right fit, and that's just my perception of it. But when he's on the sideline, he's not really making new moves or directing people a certain way. He's kind of very passive coach. And I'm not a passive coach. I'm kind of not a yeller, but like, hey, look over your right shoulder. I'm kind of helping out the team. I just didn't see that kind of that love like we've seen in the past, but like just something happened with Sweden and that first team kind of really shook them off their game. And we played against the Netherlands. I'm like, oh crap, here we go. We're gonna get blown out. And somehow they pulled the rabbit out of their hat. But Canada is not a bad team. They've been giving us fits over the years, and I hate to say it, it's actually kind of their time. This is like they're probably only tournament right now where it is their time. A lot of their players are getting a little older. Yes, but a lot of young girls are coming up too in Canada. It's just their time, but something is off right now in the USA team. Nothing's really clicking. It just seems like just the game is just not there. They beat Netherlands just on a hope and their skills, but they can only go so far. And as we see against Canada, it didn't work. So something's in the water that's not going down smoothly right now.
I wouldn't be surprised if they make a coaching change. At least when Jill Ellis crashed out of the World Cup against Sweden in the round of 16, she at least had a World Cup title the year before. He's got nothing, right? If they are primed to make change, now's the time to do it. You got 2 years until the next World Cup, and we're going to go into this cycle again where we are going to go into the World Cup as favorites, and this is the accomplishment that they are looking for. This is the last thing that they have not achieved. This is the one thing that they need to achieve. I think, winning a World Cup and following it up with a gold in the Olympics, which, it's kind of flip-flop. We used to own the gold medal, but we couldn't win a World Cup. Now we own the World Cup and we can't win a gold medal. Somebody's going to need to right that ship. That's kind of their Mount Everest right now. When they get up there, that's going to be it. So, good luck. We will take a bronze again. That bronze medal game, as Los pointed out, coming up later on this week, and we'll take that next step. We want to step further this time than we did the last time. Progress is progress, and I still think that we remain, if not the best with the top end talent, by far the deepest 1 through 46 of any team in the world.
I gotta say, probably age was a huge factor with the team this year. A lot of them are just beyond their prime and really had no business being on the pitch, to be honest with you. I mean, I love Megan Rapinoe. I love everything she's done for this sport, but it was obvious she was not the Megan Rapinoe of old, and she probably shouldn't have been out there. Just throwing that out. And she's not the only one. I'm not going to throw it just on her, but a lot of them are just old and they're starting to show it. And
I think you're right insofar as I think that I would be surprised if we see outside of the return tour, if we see Carly Lloyd in a U.S. jersey again, and she has been a phenomenal servant to the club. I would be a little bit surprised if we saw Megan Rapinoe again, considering that she'll be closer to 39. Maybe she would be willing to accept the bench role I don't know, but again, that's a spot on a 23 woman roster that could go to somebody else. Becky Sauerbrun's gotten up there. Yeah, but this is what we did after the Sweden match in Rio in 2016. You know, we're going to cut a couple of people adrift and get ready for what is essentially another 3-year cycle. Put together the team that you anticipate it being for when we go into the World Cup and the Olympics again. All right, so as we know, we are joined by Carlos and Delgado.
Yeah, the Gato's just perusing, looking for lizards here.
All right.
But, yeah.
To talk a little bit of La Liga.
Yeah.
All right, so the biggest story, I guess, in La Liga this year, Los, is the anticipated pending, whatever you want to say, re-signing of Leo Messi to Barcelona. Yeah. What do you make of La Liga this year? Who do you think is going to come out on top?
So yeah, La Liga had a lot of, undertones with the Barcelona, Leo Messi debacle, if you will, that's kind of turned into a favorable situation, mostly for the club, but also I think also for Leo too, as I think he signed for less money than what he was going to get paid or had been paid. And he didn't have to sign with them. He could have signed with anybody because he essentially was a free agent. The contract expired. He could have gone anywhere, but I think better the devil you know than the one that you don't, and so that's probably why he stuck with Barcelona. So who do I see winning this? Well, let me tell you. First off, I think who's going to win is everybody who's subscribed to ESPN Plus, because that's where La Liga is going. So congratulations, everyone who's been watching the FA Cup and the EFL Cup and Serie A and MLS on ESPN Plus, because now you have more to watch in La Liga coming up. Their 91st season coming up here August 13th. Is the first match is Valencia and Getafe, which is G's favorite team there. So they open up the season with G's favorite team. Getafe. I think he prefers them because they're in Madrid and they start with the letter G. I'm just throwing that out there. Don't know if that's true. But,
no, it's not. We know why. We know why G likes
Getafe. That's 2 out of 3. That's 2 out of 3. You're missing that last one.
Mm-hmm. Something about a video that may have been made a couple of years ago.
Okay. All right. So who's going to win? Well, I'll tell you. It really is a toss-up between the big three: Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Atletico Madrid. Those three. And if you think about it, in the last 12 seasons, it's been one of those three. Real Madrid has won 3 of those, I believe, and Barcelona's won like 7, and Atletico has won 2, including the most recent. But those are really the ones who are contending for the title, and that's just the way it is until there's some sort of salary cap set where teams are don't get the unlimited funds to spend, and that would have to be across the board, all leagues across Europe and across the world with that. And I'm like, well, that's probably not going to happen. So until that does, those are the 3, because those are the guys that have the money. And so of those 3, flip a coin, it's got to be one of them. As far as 4th place goes, you got Villarreal.
Just a real race, I think.
Right. Villarreal and Sevilla, and watch out for Real Sociedad. I think those 3 are the ones that you're looking at for 4th place to get that 4th Champions League spot. So, and if any of the top 4 win the Champions League or the Europa League, then they get the automatic berth for the next season, which means they can pick up a 5th team to go, and no more than that. You can't have more than 5. So we'll see what happens here. Now, if I had to pick, for me, my prediction, what I think is going to be, and as far as the top 4, I think it's going to be, for me, Real Madrid, Barcelona, Atletico Madrid, Sevilla. Those are my top 4. Now, if I was a betting man, I'm going to bet Barcelona is going to win the league, and because they really, I think for me, I think they got a lot to prove this season, because they weren't really, they were in it, toward the end and stuff, but they were not as strong as Real Madrid last year. I think Madrid, though, they had their chances. To be honest, I think Barcelona and Real Madrid, I think both were better than Atletico Madrid last year. But it's just the way that the points go, and all that, and you got to win your games, and that's the most important thing. It doesn't matter how many goals you score. You just got, for that particular game, you have to score more than your opponent. And Atletico is better at doing that last season, because their stats are okay. I mean, they're great, but I think Barcelona had more goals, like almost 20 more goals. That didn't translate into points, but it's something to consider.
Well,
anyway,
we've got those underlying stories. Okay, so it's Ronald Koeman's second year. Barca have largely had to shop in the bargain bin. They got Memphis Depay on free, pick up Gigi Wijnaldum on free, quality additions. You make what you want of Depay. I normally would not have had him as a Barca player, but we've seen Koeman do a lot with a little. Real Madrid are certainly going to go through a transition when you look at the fact that their starting center back pairing is going to be completely new. And we don't know where else they're going to have to play inexperienced new players. It's a bit of an aging team with so Atleti, if you look on it on the surface, they're coming back. They've got some young players. Diego Simeone has another year to get these guys back in. How do you think the finances are going to play? Do you think that the lack of additions are going to hinder Real Madrid? Do you think the consistency is going to help Atleti, who got off to a flying start, just wasn't able to maintain it? Remember, at one point in time last season, I think they were like 10 points ahead. It was just Real, through their experience in Barcelona, were able to reel them back in. Is what Barca did enough? Why do you think that Atleti's going to draw the short end of the straw, and why would you pick Real to win it with that evidence?
Well, I picked Real because I told you it was who I would want to win, because I would want Real Madrid to win. Okay, that's just why. But I mean, if I was a betting man, I'd probably put my money on Barcelona to win. I think it's Messi is the big guy. I mean, it's the easy target to say this is why they're going to win, Lionel Messi. But he is coming off the Copa America victory over the summer. He's got the trophy now. He's won with the country. Maybe now he can relax and play his game, and maybe the internet will be kinder to him. Maybe not. But he had an outstanding season last year. He 85% pass completion. He's coming up on 500 goals. He's just 26 shy of 500. That could happen this season because he had 30 last year. He led the league in goals with 30 last year. So it's a possibility that it could happen. Now, one man doesn't make a team, and we understand this, we know this, but he's got great people surrounding him. Antoine Griezmann is an outstanding player. And in the midfield, you got Busquets and De Jong in the midfield. Those guys combined this is really outstanding stat that I found. Those two combined had 5,000 accurate passes between the two of them during the season. And I'm like, wow, that's a heck of a lot of passes, but we're talking accuracy too. And so with the solid midfield pairing there, that could still keep them up and ultra competitive as they are known to be. The one thing that's disappointing to me is the young kid Ansu Fati. He's 18, but he's had 4 surgeries in 6 months, and the most recent was the left knee meniscus. which was removed, I think, back in May. And here's the thing with that. Okay. I have my left knee meniscus removed, and you feel great when it's removed because it was clicking. And then all of a sudden they take it out and, hey, no more clicking. I can run like I'm 20 years old again. And then after a while, it catches up with you, and your joint becomes arthritic and such. So I'm not sure that he'll have the same fate. Medicine being what it is now, better than what it was in 1990. I mean, he may stand to do better with the medicines that they have and stuff available to players today. Real Madrid, they're always a solid team. They're always the contender, right? You got Luka Modric in the midfield. The guy's 36, but he's still playing like he's in his 20s. This last year, he scored 4 goals. Doesn't sound like much, right? 4 goals, no big deal. Except that's the most he's ever scored since he scored 4 for Tottenham back in 2011, 2012. Modric is still, you got to contend with him. You got to, if he's on the field, you got to account for him because he can go ahead and get you. Karim Benzema up front, tied for second for the most goals in the league last year. He had 23. So that guy's good. And Courtois in the goal, 17 clean sheets, 90 saves. The guy is outstanding. Tony Cruz in the midfield, again, 10 assists for the year. So Real Madrid is something to contend with as well. So it's, again, Barcelona, Real Madrid, those guys are, pretty much neck and neck. And then you got the redheaded stepchild, Atletico Madrid. But they got guys on there that can play. Luis Suarez had 21 goals last year. Marcos Llorente had 12 goals, 11 assists. Their goalkeeper, Jan Oblak, is amazing. He won the Zamora Trophy.
Yeah, he's probably the best in the world right now.
He is the goalkeeper with the lowest goals to game ratio, 0.66 and 20. It's amazing. And the minimum there, by the way, you had to play 28 games and have 60 minutes or more per game to qualify for that trophy. He won the Zamora Trophy. So congrats. Well deserved, well earned.
Los, I've got a question for you.
Go ahead.
If there's one team that you think could be a surprise, whether either maybe challenging for 4th or at least pulling a Europa League spot where you wouldn't expect it, who do you think that could be?
Well, if I had, it's too bad Sean's not here, because if I was a betting man like Sean, I would put my money on someone who to be the upstart. I'm thinking Sevilla has a good chance to do that. They have the other Moroccan up front that can score. Youssef and Nesri can go ahead and score. This guy's 18 goals last year, 2 hat tricks in consecutive matches. So he can catch on fire pretty much at almost at the drop of a hat. But you got Rakitic up front as well. Jules Koundé, the center back. He's only 22. He's trying to be, I think Chelsea, is trying to get him before the end of this transfer period. But I mean, that guy, he's something else. And then they just picked up Eric Lamela, who's good for a Rabona goal every now and then. So, I think if I had to pick a team that was outside those 3, I'd probably put my money on Sevilla. Now, that said, you can't disregard Villarreal because those guys just won Europa, didn't they? Last May, right? So, they got Moreno, who is tied. He's the other guy who tied for second most with Benzema with 23 goals. So he's, he's their goal scorer. And I can't get out of my mind the image of Juan Foyt on the pitch with the bandage around his head, blood coming out of his nose. And it's just, I'm like, wow, these guys are fighters, literally, on the field. So you can't discount them. I think they have a chance to do something. Don't think they're going to do it, though. I think the one that has a better chance of finishing 4th is Sevilla. So that's my pick there. But if everyone is going to be an upstart, that's where I would go also, Sevilla. If it's not going to be the top three, then Sevilla has the chance to, I think, to kind of sneak in there.
Yeah, I actually, when you look back, Sevilla had a quietly strong season. You know, they won. If you look at just the games won, they won the same number of games as Barcelona. Same number. They each had 24 wins. Now, Barcelona eked them out in the draw stage, which allowed them to finish higher in the table. But you looking at a squad that didn't lose a lot of talent. They've maintained their squad, but Sevilla's been very good over the last 8 to 10 years. When you look at what they've had to deal with the three-headed monster in La Liga, but they've won 3 consecutive Europa Leagues. They've consistently qualified for Champions League. And after they lose their coach that kind of like led them there, they're still just as good, if not better. I am not going to say Sevilla is going to finish above Barcelona, Real Madrid, or Atletico, but I think that they're nearly a lock for that 4th Champions League spot again. And I wouldn't be surprised if Koeman just gets in a little over his head and Barcelona stumbles a little bit, that you could see Barcelona finishing 4th. It would not surprise me. I think it's going to be a head-to-head battle between the Madrid boys, mainly because Atletico is going to come in going, we can play with anybody.
True.
Anybody.
Yeah.
And they're going to, you know, I think they're going to make a lot of noise. And I think it's going to be harder for them because I think people are going to be like really watching them a bit closer this season, but I wouldn't be surprised at all if you look at them, they're up there finishing 2nd or 3rd, and it's like May and they're still kind of hanging around. So but just really quickly before we wrap this up, who's going down?
Who's going down? Who's going to be relegated? Well, I'll go ahead and tell you who I think is going to be relegated and why I came up with that. And then before we close it out, I got a couple interesting things I found out, kind of looking at numbers and such, that I want to share with you guys. So let's talk about relegation. The 3 that I think are going to be relegated are courtesy of one of Sean's favorite websites, oddschecker.com. And the 3 are Cadiz, Rayo Vallecano, which is moving up this year. They're moving back down. And then Elche, which just escaped relegation last year. One of the main reasons they did is because their goalkeeper, Edgar, had 95 saves, 2nd most in the league.
Jeez. He's getting peppered with shots.
But he's 2nd. He wasn't even number 1 in saves. He was just number 2 in saves. But that was good enough for his team to avoid relegation 2 points into safety last year. Those are the 3 that I would pick, only because if I was a betting man, that's where I want to go ahead and make my decision there. I did notice this. So I'd say there are a couple things I wanted to go and share with you. Relegation this past year, Iber and Huesca, they're gone.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Okay. But the interesting thing is those guys had stadiums that held less than 10,000 people.
Mm-hmm.
And for a top tier league, for a team to be playing in that league and have a stadium that doesn't hold at least 10,000, I thought that was kind of odd. Well, this year they don't have that problem. The smallest stadium is 14,000 with Rayo Vallecano, who just came up. So that was an interesting thing that I found there. A couple of other interesting notes coming up into the season. At Bilbao, Athletic Club, as it comes up on your Google, it's also Bilbao. They have a player, Raul Garcia, 500 plus appearances, 102 goals. This guy is longevity. He's and if you want to talk longevity, there's another guy, Joaquin, who is 40 years old this year with Real Betis. And so it's you got some guys who have been around a long time, and some of them, I believe Joaquin is number 2 all time for appearances in La Liga. Well, with that said, let me get that list here. I had a list here I was just looking at the guys that and it won't let me look at it. Lionel Messi and another player who I cannot remember their name. Wait, is it I think it's think it's Garcia, Raul Garcia, those two. Messi's got like a few more appearances than Garcia, but by the end of this season, if assuming they play all matches, then those two guys will be in the top 4 all time for appearances in La Liga, which is I thought kind of interesting. You know, it's kind of a testament to their ability and their professionalism to be able to stay in the league that long to gain that many appearances. That's kind of a tip of the cap there for those guys. For hooray, old guys.
All right, Los, we want to thank you for your insight on Serie A, and we will definitely be talking to you next week when we go through the full Premier League.
EPL.
Yes, and get your thoughts on your beloved Spurs and the will they, won't they saga with Harry Kane.
Well, we'll talk about that next week. Let's see.
How's that for a teaser?
Let's see how the next episode of As Harry Turns turns out.
All
right. Take care, guys.
All right, so we're going to turn it over. We're going to go a little bit south and west right now real quick and turn it over to G and let him talk a little bit of Serie A real quick before we get to Cam with our belated preview. Of course. And what would it be in preview Scotland after it actually started? That's like the most Scottish thing ever.
That damn haggis. I saw Chelsea might kind of perk up a little bit with a couple of Chelsea shout outs, and actually I'm going to give you a couple more right now. So let's talk about Juve. So Juve just signed Cellini for a 2-year deal, but they still have Chesney as their goalie. And as some of our Arsenal friends and love of the Arsenal team, we know it's probably not the best decision for him to be your number 1 goalie. He's all right, but to be your number 1 and to win championships and try to win for the Champions League, he's not your man. But yet he still is their number 1. Juve is very confident. They're going to still sign a couple of people like is it Caio Jorge from Brazil? He's a 19-year-old stud from Santos who's supposed to be the next big thing coming from soccer. So they kind of stole him kind of cheaply. You get Allegri back as coach. But now we're having Federico Chiesa being rumored to go to Chelsea or even Liverpool right now. So their ears are open to possibly sell him. Now that is going to be a huge thing because he is known as Ronaldo's little buddy or little friend. So he kind of wants to make his own name for himself, but especially after the Euros this year, I'm surprised that more and more bigger teams haven't gone after him, given Juve the money. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens with Juve. It kind of seems like kind of in a turmoil a little bit. Like they're trying to find out some couple of pieces to kind of get back to the level that they're supposed to be for the last couple of years. But then you have Inter Milan, who's a friggin' stud of a team, and I know Chelsea might just left, but Lukaku. They're talking about possibly signing Lukaku for about 130 million, but Inter Milan is not really interested until that number hits about 150. So it kind of sounds like Chelsea is trying to build up their offense. I wonder why. Well, you can only do so much from the Bundesliga guys that they kind of signed over, and they're not really doing anything. So I can see why you want these two studs. Lukaku, number 2 in both the goals and assists in Serie A last year. They also signed Giroud. You know, I'm kind of still upset that Giroud left Arsenal. He's still producing. He gets he was on the bench about the 63rd minute. Gets subbed down, 68th, he scores. And so, like, this guy is a proven scorer, but yet Arsenal likes to keep him away. So, good to see he's actually had more chances on Inter, especially right now since, you know, the talks about getting or selling Lukaku away. One thing I think is kind of going for them and also kind of leading their way to repeat as champions, they didn't come over to America this summer. So, they actually had some time to stay in Italy, kind of recover, kind of reheal, and kind of get a really good game plan. Also, another name from the best name from the past is Alexis Sanchez. He's going to be another contender going to be playing for Inter Milan. So Chelsea, I don't know if you heard or anything, but Chesney as well as Lukaku, you guys want them. So if you guys can take that, I might have to change my pick 'em to Chelsea maybe be number 1 or number 2 next year. So I'm kind of waiting to see what happens with all of that. I'm pretty happy that Eriksen went back to Inter Milan, and he hasn't played yet. But I guess in Italy he might be prohibited to play. I guess there's laws saying, but if there's a health factor that's associated with the person in that job or that occupation, they cannot play. Where in Denmark and I believe in England, they don't have those kind of rules. So if Eriksen is 100% healthy, I can see him kind of signing somewhere else. So Inter Milan right now is a lot of question marks going on. So we're going to see, but ultimately I do think that they're going to take the table like they did last year. Atalanta, for whatever reason, for the last couple of years, they're always stuck in 3rd place. Is this the year that they kind of get over that hump and try to make for the champion? Try to have that cup. It's been a very long time, and one name that we really can't forget is Jose Mourinho. He's over in Roma right now, and God only knows what's going to happen. And I don't even have Roma on my list of top 5. They might win the championship. I don't know. Mourinho has that kind of magic or non-magic, and we'll see what happens. So last thing I saw, he's about to sell 23 people from his roster. So, again, don't know what's going to go on with Roma. Don't know what's going to go on with Jose Mourinho. So I'm going to put a huge question mark on Roma. So I think I have them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm 6 right now, according to if they keep their 23 roster. It's good to see, though. We're trying to get some stability back in the top couple, but just like in La Liga, you're only going to have a 2, maybe a 3 dog pony show who's going to run for the championship. So like you can have Inter Milan, Juve, and Atalanta, where everyone else kind of falls. It's going to be close. Last year, Inter Milan had 91 points. The Milan, Atalanta, Juve, and even Napoli, they are all within 2 points from each other. So Napoli was in 5th place with 77, and AC Milan with 79. So it's going to be a close race. I don't think Inter Milan's going to run away with it this year, having 11 extra points. I think they're going to kind of come down just a little bit, but I still think they're going to win at least by 6 or 7 points by a couple of games. Juve, here we go again with Allegri, and we got rid of Pirlo, and before Pirlo for that 1 year we had Sarri. So they're kind of going through a coach's conundrum right now. So that's why I really don't think that they're going to actually take the title. So again, in my order for this year, we have Inter Milan, we have Juve, Atalanta, AC Milan, Napoli. I'm gonna throw Roma in there just for shits and giggles, and Lazio. So I see a question on the old chat line. So yes, caller, you have a question?
By the way, thanks for all the shout outs during your presentation there. It's nice to be loved. Let's say somehow Chelsea pry Lukaku from Inter's hands. Where does Inter finish that?
They probably drop down to 3rd or 4th place. They do have some talent, but not to the level of Lukaku. If that's the case, I would put maybe Atalanta. I can maybe possibly see them kind of popping up. And I don't know if you guys have watched that big tournament in Euro called the Euro 2020s. But when you're watching them, all I was hearing from the Italy team is Atalanta, and other teams, Atalanta. It seems like they have a core group who is doing great things right now. So could they possibly win the championship? I can see that only if Chelsea takes Lukaku away from Milan. So hopefully not. But Juve will always going to be Juve. They're always going to be in 1, 2, 3. I don't really see them slipping. But there's still a lot of question marks right now in the top 5, top 6 different teams. But as the things stand right now at this time, let's see what time it is, 8:51 in Central, Inter Milan, Juve, Atalanta, AC Milan, Napoli, Roma, and Lazio.
So, real quick, you've given us your top 5. Who do you think is going to be relegated?
I have Torino, Empoli, and Cagliari. Empoli just come up from Serie B. They maybe have a stadium of maybe my high school, but it's this very small club. They celebrated last year like you wouldn't believe. It's the first time ever in a very extremely long time in Serie A. But it just seems like, those kind of three teams are going to say bye-bye. So Torino will be huge because I don't think they've ever been in Serie B. Don't quote me on that. But if they have, it's been a very long time. They've always kind of been that Newcastle kind of team, kind of just hanging around the very end of or the very lower of the tables. I think this year it's going to be their turn to say goodbye, go down to Serie B, and hopefully Newcastle as well.
Yeah, that means Venezia is going to stay up.
Yeah, I actually have them about 17th.
And Los brought up a good point where he was talking about teams with the small stadiums not being up in La Liga. Well, Venezia Stadium only holds about 7,500 people.
Mm-hmm.
And it's fascinating to see because if you look at the aerial views, it's covered, there's boats all around it and everything. But it looks like a fantastic place. I mean, I have been to Venice, and I really wish there was a game going on when I was there because I found it quite boring. It was a big shopping mall. But to see that they actually have stadium out there, that would have been great to check out. So I'm actually, and I like the kit. I know I missed the kit show last week, but the Venezia kit looks good, and they might have 2 American players before the season gets rolling. So that's going to be I'm glad you didn't pick them to go down because that's probably the Serie A game I'm going to try and watch this year.
Yeah, we're all looking forward to the possibility of Gianluca Busio being over there playing in the city of rivers. It does not get much better than that. All right, G. So we're going to move along and bring in our good friend Resplendent in his black Celtic jersey tonight. I thought that was the new one, but it's not. But Cam, I'm loving it. Cam. I know it's been a bad week.
Yeah.
We will give you your chance to vent a little bit in a second, but give us your what we can expect from the SPL, and it would even be better. Now, I will say this. I was able to see the Celtic match this week because I had Peacock. Is this an ongoing thing? Might I possibly be able to watch Celtic matches without stealing a stream from Kazakhstan to get it?
Yeah, so this year it looks like a lot more the Scottish Premier Football League is going to end up being on Peacock and ESPN, actually. Some of the bigger games. Granted, last year I did find some of the Dundee Livingston games on ESPN. Granted, I have a feeling that there's about 10 people outside of Scotland that are probably watching that game. But some of those games are actually going to end up on ESPN and Peacock.
Not true, Cam. Actually, last year I watched a couple Scottish Championship games.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
Okay, so I guess you're one of the 10 that picks up on those games.
You 8 other people.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, no, the viewing over here is definitely easier, but that game last week was a real shame. I think we played well for really a skeleton crew of a team. Our back four, apart from one guy, was youngsters. A lot of these guys haven't played in more than 2 games in football, at this kind of level. So it was a little disappointing to see, put that much effort and have so many close chances and just, essentially end up losing the game at the end to the goalkeeper that we gave away last year. So that was also kind of bitter ending to it, seeing Craig Gordon make 2 unbelievable world-class saves, just absolutely phenomenal. In terms of where we are transfer-wise, I don't know if anyone's seen, but we did end up picking up Joe Hart today and James McCarthy, which, I've seen a lot of people giving Celtic stick for that. Joe Hart's out of his prime, things like that. But the one thing that we need in our team right now is that experience. Again, I say we have all these youngsters. Our back line is trash. Our goalie, both of our goalies are just, they're non-existent. We may as well be playing a man down. So I think Joe Hart is going to come in and hopefully organize that defense. Same thing with James McCarthy, He used to play, I think he got started at Hamilton Accies in Scotland, made 100 and something appearances. He knows the Scottish game, played in the EPL. He's been in the EPL with Everton, Crystal Palace for long stints, a regular starter. I think he's going to bring that much needed experience to a team that really needs, a bit of a backbone this season, especially after last season. So hopefully looking to pick up a right back. The eternal question at Celtic is, when are we going to get a right back? And that's been the same thing for the past 5 to 10 years. So hopefully this is the year we get a real right back. If not, again, I guess we're going to be playing with someone like Welsh, a youngster. In terms of how the league's going to turn out, I mean, it's not off to a great start for Celtic. However, I am an Angie believer. I am strongly backing him to turn this team around. And I think from what I've been reading about his relationship with Dominic McKay, how they're reorganizing the team mentality. Dominic McKay hasn't separated from the team since he's joined. He's going with them to all these European games. He's on the training pitch with them. So, I'm a big believer in the rebuild here. And I'm going to go ahead and say that Celtic is going to win it this year. This is. I know. We got people laughing. I know.
That's big. That's big.
You're
putting it out there.
It's big, but Rangers. They played Malmo, which not the easiest team the other day, but they were a mess. They were completely disorganized. Had no idea what they were doing. Just happened to luckily get a goal to take back home with them. They still lost 2-1, but I think I haven't been seeing much in the transfer front for Rangers, whereas we are making these transfers. We are changing our team. Again, this is a completely different style of football. We've always been a defensive team, and Angie's, his method is attacking football, which is the football I like to see, and I think it's effective for the team we have. So, I'm saying it's going to be Celtic, Rangers, and then Hibs for the top 3, followed by Aberdeen and fifth. I don't even know who to put in 5th for this.
Don't worry about that, because I think 5th gets you what? I think 5th at this point in time gets you like what, a golden handshake or something like that, a Laurel and Hardy handshake.
Yeah, probably £10,000.
What do you think? So Celtic have dropped into the biggest question, I guess, is going to be, once we get past the Champions League places, which we expect to go, which we know will go to Celtic and Rangers, right? How do you think those two teams will fare in their respective European tournaments? Rangers now have to make a comeback against Malmo, having lost 2-1 today. Celtic have a game on Thursday in the Europa League qualifiers to go through in that tournament, where they risk dropping down into the Conference League. How do you think those two teams can fare in the respective tournaments that they are in? Do you think that they're going to drop down to the tournament below? And if they do, can they compete in that tournament?
Yeah, so far I think both teams have not looked great in Europe. I do have to admit, for both coaches, it's actually their first time playing in European competition. I think both teams looked very shaky. Obviously, we dropped down into the Europa League. Rangers still have 1 game to play. If they lose that, they're in the Europa League. In terms of how I think Rangers is going to do, I really question, the next game they play after seeing them play a couple days ago. I do have to say that this next game is at Castle Grayskull, Ibrox, so they do have that advantage. With some home fans being allowed to come into the games now, and I think that is going to give them a boost. If are they gonna progress? I could see them progressing, but then losing to the team. I think the team after is either Olympiacos and another team if they progress, and I don't think that's something they can. I don't think they progress further than that.
I think the team Olympiacos has been banned from this show. I could be mistaken. Just the name Olympiacos. I'll let it to the producer. Okay.
Am I gonna get fined?
No, you don't get fined. We just try not to. There are certain things. Look, if you are willing to actually mention the name Rangers on the air as a Celtic supporter, then you can actually say Olympiacos when you want to.
Oh, after this, I usually have to say about 100 Hail Marys, 20 Our Fathers. Like, I have to really cleanse myself after coming on the show a lot of the time.
Yeah, you go take a bath, drink some scotch.
Yeah, and holy water, and yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I know how it goes. It's tough. I dig it completely.
Now you know what I do for the show.
Now we talked about this at the top of the segment. You said, there's going to be a lot more games available on Peacock and ESPN Plus this year. Most of us sitting around here are familiar with watching the SPL. We all come to it from our various avenues. Why should somebody who has never watched an SPL match watch one?
I think just like all the different types of football out there, English style of play is very different than, South American, than Italian, than Spanish. The Scottish style of play, it's rough. It's very physical. It's a very, very physical, demanding game. And I think, sometimes it can look a bit choppy, a little bit diving here and there. But there's something to be said about the atmosphere at these games too that you get from watching them on TV. Even, the fans are just they add to the game. So I think seeing a lot of these younger players who a lot of them end up playing in EPL and other parts of the world, things like that. A lot of them get their start in Scotland. Like James McCarthy, as I was saying, he played for Hamilton Accies and then he ended up being one of Roberto Martinez's go-to players at Everton. So I think there's something to be said about Scottish football. It's still progressing. It's not necessarily EPL level, but it is solid to watch, especially if you like to see a few elbows thrown.
Go ahead, Mikey.
I can. I mean, I know you've got your allegiances, but as an objective human being and as an analyst, Rangers win the treble this year?
I mean, I don't think they're going to walk away with all 3 pieces of silverware. I really don't. I think that's, really taxing. I just, it's a good team. They played a great season last year, but I do see, I mean, there's even other teams like Livingston that had a fantastic, St. Johnstone that had a fantastic season last year. And, I think St. Johnstone won one of those trophies, or 2, actually. I think they won 2 last year. So, I just can't objectively say that I think Rangers are going to win all 3. I really think Celtic, are really going to have a fighting chance in one of these competitions this year, based on the people I've seen being brought in. Again, this attacking style of football, which is really going to get, I think Angie, I'm really confident in him. I think that's going to be a big change for the game in Scotland. I think it's going to work to our benefit, especially for these more defensive teams, So, I have Celtic to at least win 1 piece of silverware. So they're not going to get the treble. They may get the double, might get 1. Hopefully they get none.
What do you think is going? So we expect to see at least 4 games between Celtic and Rangers. Possibility of 6.
Yeah.
If you're handicapping the 4 league Old Firm derbies, give me a record, one way or the other.
I'll say this. I think the first one, I just don't see us winning it necessarily. Again, I think it's going to be a real testament to Angie if he can pull it off as someone who has, never played in an Old Firm. Steven Gerrard does have that Old Firm experience. A lot of those players do. We're recycling our squad a little bit. So I really think that first one, I'd have to say, I don't think we're going to win that first one. Be impressed if we did, but I don't think so. The second one, I could see being a tie. Third one, that's when I would like to see us start winning them. So I'm hoping, a 2-1-1 type of situation here at least. So
when is the first Old Firm derby, if you know?
I have to check. They just released the the schedule the other day.
This is more of a and I'm not gonna lie, this is more of a personal question because this is one of those Stead, Mikey, Rob, who's not even with us right now, but yeah, this is one of those ones where if it's and he shows up again. Stead, Mikey, and Rob, we'll get Coach Matt. Let's all find a place if we possibly can and sit with Cam and watch this if it is at all possible for us to do that. And I don't even care if y'all invade my house.
Well, it is August 29th at 7 a.m.
That's gonna be rough.
Yeah. They do that so that people don't drink, but then people
okay,
just drink earlier.
Okay. My house may not be big enough. We may have to invade Stead's.
No input from Stead, though. We're just
No
deciding.
no input from Stead. But August 29th, we can. Yeah.
My language might get a bit.
We'll chat about it. We may be able to figure something out for this because I think this has to do something.
Just gotta hit on New Orleans, go to G's house. You know?
Yeah.
Yes, we can all go down to G's house too.
7 a.m. in my house. You trust me, you don't want to be anywhere near here.
No, but I think it would be worthwhile if we could find a place where
it'd
we
be
could
fun
actually
though.
do this.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I don't care.
I know a bar down here in New Orleans that's a complete Celtic bar, so I'm just throwing that out there.
You know what we could do? We could do like old school bachelor party days. Just have Mikey get a hotel room and we'll in DC we'll all go over there.
I mean, that did happen.
Yeah. So Cam, we want to thank you. We'll get back in touch with you as the season rolls on. Find out what Celtic's doing, find out what's going on in the enchanted land of Scotland. Go take a bath. You said Rangers a couple of times, and that requires some Hail Marys and some scotch. Saying Our Father, pray the rosary 12 times,
Break
turn
out the
around.
rosary, yep.
Yeah, throw salt over your left shoulder and spit.
Yep. All right, gentlemen. Thank you as always. Appreciate the Celtic love and looking forward to talking to you soon.
All right. So Byron Robb is back. He has changed his name. He has changed his kit. And this can only mean one thing. He is ready to talk Bundesliga with us.
Oh, I love the league. You know I love it. Best fans, best stadiums, best atmosphere, best everything. But I'm here to talk to you about this league and why it's no guarantee that Bayern will win it again for the 10th time. It's really hard. And it's time. It's time somebody takes the crown. And I'm sad to say, I think Bayern's still going to win the league, but this would probably be the first year in a long time they've had a legit challenge. And that challenge is going to come from Leipzig. Now, I know it's Jesse Marsch, new coach, new philosophies, but he has said that he wants to take it back to a little bit of the old Leipzig days, before Nagelsmann, where it was a lot more high pressing. And he did a lot of that over at New York Red Bulls. It was very, very chaotic pressing. Be much more organized, obviously, because they're better players. But he's going to really turn up the volume over there at Leipzig, and I think they're going to have a really good shot. And one of the biggest reasons why is because they got the second best striker in the Bundesliga, and Andre Silva, coming from Frankfurt. Big get is probably the one biggest piece they needed to really contend. They needed a bona fide number 9, a striker who could put the ball in the back of the net, and they got it. And he's gonna make it. He's gonna give Bayern and the rest of the league a run for the money. I think he's gonna do really well for their Leipzig. So that's why you gotta watch some Leipzig games. You gotta get Tyler Adams over there. Potentially after January, you got Keaton Clark coming in from New York Red Bulls. Potentially even Brendan Aronson, because I think he's outgrown his stay over at Salzburg. Leipzig will be fun to watch. So I think it should be required viewing for all you folks, especially the Bayern haters. Go watch Leipzig.
So you think Bayern's stiffest challenge, and it has, will come from Leipzig. I'm guessing you imagine it's going to be a 1-2 between Bayern and Leipzig the whole entire season. Who rounds out the top four in the Bundesliga?
Even though Sancho's gone, they got another year of Mokoku, who's pretty much, he's like the future in the center forward position. Gio Reyna's another year older, another year experience. Marco Reus is still there. I know they have a new manager, Marco Rosa, coming in from Gladbach, who's not the flashiest, but he has done the work. He has done good things at Gladbach, not counting last season. But I just think that it's going to be really hard for them. Because they're going to miss Sancho a lot. He did so much, especially for Holland too. I think Holland's going to be on a tear. I think he's going to be out there to prove a point, pretty much having the biggest "come get me" sign and pay me my money. So he's going to score a ton of goals, but he's not going to have the help that he had last season with Sancho. So it's going to be Dortmund in the 3 spot. I think Gladbach would do well. Adi Hütter coming in from Frankfurt. I think he's going to really help that squad. He's a really, really good manager. And they just have a nice, well-rounded team. I like the way Frankfurt play, which is a shame because that means that coming from last season, Wolfsburg is going to drop down. I think Wolfsburg drops out completely out of European contention whatsoever. So those are my top 4. And just to round out real quick about the 2 remaining European spots, I think Leverkusen gets a Europa League spot. I think one of the stars of the Euros, Patrick Schick. We all know he had that amazing goal from the halfway mark. I think it's going to be his squad, especially with Leon Bailey. Looks like he's leaving over to Villa. But I think Patrick Schick is a rising star in this league. He's going to take them back to European contention. And probably my biggest surprise, and I know there's another spot for Europe, it's called the Europa Conference. I think Hoffenheim is going to move up there. I think Sebastian Hoeneß really is growing into this job. I think he has the players to do it. He got Sebastian Rudy in as well. I know he's kind of been like struggling here and there throughout the league ever since he left. I believe he left Schalke to go to Bayern. And so I think he's a quality midfielder. I think he's definitely going to help that squad. And if Chris Richards from Bayern definitely goes back to Hoffenheim for another season on loan, he's a starter, and he did really well in that position. And I think that he's going to help him, and the rest of the squad going to help him out. Get to Europa Conference play. I think they're going to be my story to watch out for, because I think they'll do really well.
All right. So before I get to the back end of the table, Bundesliga over the last few years has been a great breeding ground for young talent, and especially young American talent. So I'm going to ask this as a 2-part question. Who are the youngsters that we may not know about that we should be keeping an eye on in the Bundesliga? And that's like, don't give me Holland because I already know about him. But who are some of the young players that I might want to keep an eye on? And who do you think is going to be the next big American player that I should keep an eye on this season in the Bundesliga?
Well, I'll go with the last question first. We all know about Gio Reyna, right? So I wouldn't count him. But Taylor Booth, who is training with the first team. Taylor Booth came from the Real Salt Lake Academy, came over to the Bayern Academy, played in their youth teams, played in Bayern too. And then last season, he went over to Austria for half a season and did really well over there, especially a game against Salzburg. He scored a wonderful goal over there. He's training with the first team, and a combination of him doing well and also Bayern really not having the funds to really refresh the roster, like kind of like how they want to. I think he's going to potentially sniff, first team minutes, here and there. At least he'll be on the bench a lot, so he'll be one to watch out for. And and as far as the younger players in the league goes, I mean, I said it before, but Patrick Schick is a star. Florian Wirtz over at I forget where he plays for, but he's another one. I think he's going to do really well. He's a German youth star, potentially going to Bayern next season. Might be running out the contract. So those are two big stars. I think the two youth players, the younger players, are going to really make a mark in the league and potentially position themselves for a transfer in the next offseason.
So Rob, I don't have a Bundesliga team, right? And so I've been watching, and I'm like flirting with FC Union Berlin. What do you think this season holds for them?
It's going to be tough for them because I tell you what, I think they'll get the fans back in the stands, and they're one of those clubs that loves having fans. But they actually are in the playoffs for a Europa Conference spot. I think they have a match coming. They have one match coming up, and then they have another round to go, and then potentially make the group stage. It's gonna be hard for them if they make it there to do both competitions. Last season, I thought they would potentially make the Europa League spot, but because they're a small club and don't really have the funds to have the depth that they need to play two different competitions. So I actually feel them coming out being mid-table this season. I think they'll survive. I don't think they'll get relegated. I think Union Berlin is here to stay. And if you want a fun club, an up-and-coming club, and a really community-based club, Union Berlin's a really good one to choose.
I mean, that's what I'd be looking for.
Rob, who you have having getting relegated this season?
Sadly enough, and I hate to say it, I think Mainz are going down. I think Bielefeld is going down as well. I mean, they might as well go down because I don't know if you heard the urban legend, but like Bielefeld doesn't exist. It's like a town that doesn't exist. Yeah, look it up on Wiki. It's pretty hilarious. I think both of them go down. Bielefeld just, but in the last couple weeks of the season, last season, they made themselves, kind of safe from relegation. And I think will be in the playoff spot. And they'll probably make it out because I think they're good enough, but there's always a danger. So my bottom three are Cologne, Bielefeld, and Mainz, with the last two going down.
So we know that G and Coach Matt took over at Schalke. Do they have any shot of getting them back into the Premier League?
No, they're not. They're not coming back up. I mean, they're not even doing well to start the season. I think they lost to Hamburg the first match day.
We had hoped he'd play for USA. You saw what kind of talent we have right now as a forward. Come on now, of course we're going back up to the Bundesliga. We're gonna keep everything on the down low, on the wraps. Just watch out. Just watch out. That's all I'll say.
I just think they need another season to get themselves together. I mean, the problem with their finances was so atrocious. It's going to take a while to clear the books, and they're just not ready to come up yet. I mean, they came up, they're going to come right back down. I mean, they're in their short-term future is very, very wishy-washy at best. So look for the Schalke and to stay down another season. And for all you Dortmund fans, no more River Derby, at least for a couple more seasons.
Challenge accepted. We'll see.
All right, Rob, I asked Cam this. Why should somebody pick up watching the Bundesliga on ESPN?
Yeah. So, well, just to be clear, the league deal means that 4 matches are televised on ESPN or ESPN2, and the rest, everything else is advertised on ESPN Plus. It's one of the biggest draws of the league is the fan experience. And sadly enough, last season you didn't get that. The fans are what make the product. And when they weren't there, it seemed just like a shell of itself. But I think fans are coming back. I think they're going to be louder than ever. And if you are a lover of the game at its core and its roots, and you want to be involved in supporter culture, you want to be involved in how your club is run, your favorite club is run, this is a league for you, because you're not just a fan for 90 minutes, you're a fan for 24/7, and you're a supporter for 24/7. If you love the chanting, you love the drums, you love the music, you want to see young players, you want to see high pressing, counter-attacking football, the Bundesliga is your league to watch. It is. Now, for those who really care about results and they see that Bayern are always winning the league, I think, that's only one small picture of the league. I think there's a lot of action qualifying for Europe and also trying to stay up. And, I think on most days, any team can be any team. I mean, I think that's how well-rounded the league is. Especially this year, coming year, I think Bayern can potentially lose to a bottom 3 team on a bad day. They just don't have the depth anymore that they used to, and so it's a new manager as well. So obviously, at Bayern, it's going to take a while to figure out his tactics, and they might get caught in a bad day. So that's why the Bundesliga is one to watch this season, because you might see Bayern beat the throne, and that might be fun to watch for some. I mean, not for me, but for some.
So, Stead, I just looked up the Bielefeld conspiracy that Rob was talking about. It sounds exactly like what I've been saying for years about Tobago. Has anybody actually been to Tobago?
Yeah, Anthony Bourdain, I think he went there for a show once.
No, but can we
he could have
prove that
easily just stayed in Trinidad,
Trinidad?
because he can't prove that he was there.
Went there. All right, like he's dead. He can't prove that he was actually there. Number one. Number two, has anybody actually met anybody from Tobago? Even Trinidadians don't know anybody from Tobago.
A huge Indian population down there.
No, but I know, and you talk to people from Trinidad and you ask them, do you actually know anybody from Tobago? And they said, no. I'm pretty sure Tobago doesn't exist. Like, I think that it's like this uninhabited island, and that's what they're saying about Bielefeld. Have you ever been there? No. Nobody goes to Tobago. Who goes to Tobago? Do you know anybody from Tobago? All anybody knows is I talked to somebody who said that they knew somebody. It's all third-hand information. I'm pretty sure Tobago, like Bielefeld, doesn't actually exist. It's one of these things. And unlike Bielefeld, where the Germans have been so good, and this is because, Rob, they're so doggone organized, where they have actually put up pictures and stuff like that. They don't actually even put up pictures of Trinidad. Like, they're too lazy to do even that. Like, we just accept that there are toboggans out there. I challenge people. There are no such thing as people from Tobago. Every person I've met from Trinidad and Tobago claims Trinidad. I'm pretty sure at best Tobago is some sort of Gilligan's Island. Like, I'm pretty sure that Tobago was the setting for Gilligan's Island. And if you go there, you will find the bones of the professor and Marianne. I'm not 100% sure, but yeah. So yes, look it up. The Bielefeld conspiracy theory is very interesting. Gentlemen, it's been fun. I want to thank Los and Celtic Cam for coming on and giving us their thoughts on La Liga and the SPL respectively. For those of you out there who have never watched an SPL game, it's very, very interesting. If you've never watched an Old Firm game, that's even more interesting. There is just so much that goes into that. And Scottish football is just different. It seems like it's played at a faster and rougher pace than anything else. Like they will run up and down the field and just elbow each other. It's kind of a different. In some ways, it's like the dirt track racing of soccer. That's the best way that I can describe it, because I would say it's the NASCAR, but half the time the fields that they're playing on have like one blade of grass in the center of the park. Other than that, it's a straight dirt track. It is like the dirt track racing of soccer. It's just a bunch of guys running up and down the field and bumper carring into each other, but it is horribly entertaining. Thank you, Rob, for coming on and giving us your thoughts on the USA men and the US women and the Bundesliga, and G hanging around the whole show, giving us your thoughts on Serie A too. So as we hit the bricks, we'll start with Chelsea. Mike, give us your parting thoughts as we head to that proverbial off ramp for this show.
Parting thoughts. I watched the men's Olympic football tournament or soccer tournament. I've got to say, there's a lot of names on Spain that played in the Euros.
Mm-hmm.
Give me Spain to win the gold medal in men's football.
Ooh, I know Brazilian Peter's not going to be happy about that one. And Pedri apparently has played his 35,764th game of the season. Man, it's incredible.
71 games.
72.
72, yeah.
G.
To be young.
Yeah. G, your parting thoughts as we hit the bricks.
I'm just looking forward to the upcoming season. We've always, it's always fun in the summertime to watch these tournaments, but really where the heart is truly is our club teams and watching Arsenal hopefully fail. But no, it's just to watch kind of normalcy going into the weekends. And as teachers, it kind of is my weekend love of I can't wait for the weekend to watch soccer. It helps pass the BS of the weekdays. So,
Rob, just so you know, I'm heading up to Baltimore 7:30 on Saturday the 14th to catch Man United if you want to drop by. But give us your parting thoughts.
I will say that in a couple weeks, well, next week, I think, when the Bundesliga starts, we welcome Julian Green, the American who scored against Belgium. We welcome him back to the Bundesliga. He plays for a club called Greuther Fürth, or pardon my German pronunciation.
Greuther Fürth.
Yeah, but they're also known as the Cloverleafs. So if you are a fan of anything Shamrock or Cloverleaf, then that potentially is your club. So welcome back, Julian Green, to the Bundesliga, and maybe a call up to World Cup qualifying. We shall see.
Hey, also, Rob, I found those Adidas that you had, and I copped a pair. So yeah. Stead.
Yeah, real quick. I know it's never good when the nation you root for loses, but I think when the U.S. women's team lost, I think what we should really highlight is the fact that the rest of the world is going to catch up on these types of sports, and I think what we saw highlighted from earlier parts of the dawn of women's soccer from a I guess a televised perspective back in the 90s was which country was investing in their women's teams, and of course you saw. Initially, the dominant teams are going to be the United States and China, since they have a consistent long-term investment into the athletics of their country. So with that being said, I think what we're seeing is that the other countries are finally giving their women's programs the funding and the coaching and the opportunities to really develop. And I think that's very positive. So even though the US lost, you lose to Canada and it's not hockey. I think that is a good thing for the women's game as a whole. We're seeing it really grow throughout the world beyond simply a spectator sport. So that in itself is positive. And we're seeing the same thing happen with US men's basketball. I think you got to understand, the top 10 players in the world, several of them are not from the United States. So I think this is all positive when it comes to just the general growth of the sport in general.
Instead, like you and Coach Matt, show your girls this game. Get them involved. It's how we kind of get involved more and more at the grassroots. So celebrate the women playing soccer.
Sorry, my little girl's running track. I can tell you already. She's running track. She saw the 10-6 by the Jamaican girls, and her eyes were like this. So,
it has been a very, very, very interesting last year and a half. And when we consider the fact that about this time last year, we were basically just wrapping up the previous season, and we've been going almost completely since then. Man, what we've seen, the end of COVID, Liverpool winning the league, Italy in the Europa League, the US winning 2 trophies off of Mexico, England in a competitive European final, Bayern winning the Champions League, Chelsea winning the Champions League in the last 18 months.
I was about to say, what?
It just feels like we have just been continuously on go since that 100 days where we had no soccer. And as we go into this season, I'm just hoping that, like, I'm exhausted from all of this. I know the players have to be. I'm hoping that we can get through this season relatively unscathed so that we can all take a break and exhale at the end of 2022 when there really apparently isn't a major tournament. Unusually, I mean, we should have one, but we're not going to because the World Cup's not until November. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And the final word of the day will be spang you. To throw violently into the air, especially to throw an amphibian into the air from the end of a stick. Weird words that you never knew existed. All right, for Coach G, Chelsea Mike, Byron Rob, Celtic Cam, and Los, and especially producer Stead, I'm Mike. This has been the Too Many Guys Soccer Show. We did all right this week. We'll try and do better next week.